Welcome to Securing America with me, Frank Gaffney, the program that's a kind of owner's manual for protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to God's glory and that of his kingdom. There are a lot of things to be concerned about in terms of the threats we must protect against if we are to ensure the survival of our country. And as we head into this Memorial Day weekend, it is a time to reflect on those threats, to be clear eyed about them, and to my way of thinking, to be especially mindful of something that this day calls us to think about every day. And that is not simply the sacrifice of fallen heroes, but also the importance of practicing what my old boss Ronald Reagan used to call peace through strength, so as to avoid preventable wars by deterring them effectively, and to assure that we can win decisively those that we cannot avoid. A man who is the living embodiment, to my way of thinking, of the principles of peace through strength and the commitment to protect the country we love is, I am proud to say, a regular here at Secure Freedom Radio. I'm very proud to say, is a regular here at Securing America. His name is Sam Faddis, Charles Sam Faddis. He served our country in numerous capacities, including notably for 20 years as an undercover operative of the Central Intelligence Agency, putting his life on the line day in and day out in some pretty unsavory places to, well, use our strength to preserve the peace. Sam Faddis is these days an author of, among many other things, Substack articles for And Magazine. And we're going to talk with him about several of them that are of surpassing importance. And I'm very pleased to be able to do it with you today, Sam, on the eve of Memorial Day. Welcome back to Securing America, my friend.
Great to be here, Frank, as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask you first, Sam, about China. We had a webinar yesterday about what has been developing in terms of evidence that the Chinese are not simply intent on attacking Taiwan, conquering Taiwan, attaching Taiwan to the mainland, if you will, but they may have in mind doing it rather imminently. Um, there's a video out of Guangdong province, apparently, that suggests plans are now underway at the direction of the national leadership in China for presumably not just Guangdong province, but all of them to make a transition, as it's put in this video, a top secret recording of a meeting of senior party cadre and military officers to make the transition from, quote, normal to war, unquote. Have you had a chance to look at this video? And if so, do you think it's authentic in terms of what it represents?
I have watched the video and read the English translation of the Chinese, and it certainly seems authentic to me. It also seems completely consistent with everything else we see Beijing doing right now.
Yeah, that's really a key point, Sam, because I don't know that we'll know for sure that it is authentic, but it does fit into an awful lot of other, what they call in your business, indicators and warnings that China is moving inexorably towards conflict. In our webinar, Sam, and I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at it, but it's now at presentdangerchina.org for the rest of you to watch, and I hope you will. Uh, that the Chinese have um, quite possibly got more than Taiwan in their crosshairs, including us. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's exactly right. We wrote about this not so long ago at And Magazine. Look, the Chinese clearly intend to expand, are expanding. Occupying the South China Sea was not a defensive measure. That is a springboard to allow further action.
Mhm.
They've got targets out in the desert that are the silhouettes of our major naval warships. They've got a new hypersonic missile they call the Guam Killer. These are what we call clues in the intelligence business.
Right.
I don't think there's any reason to think that the Chinese would simply move against Taiwan or elsewhere and then wait for the Seventh Fleet intact at a time of its choosing to come and launch some sort of counteroffensive, assuming we did. The Japanese didn't do that. In 1941, they decided, let's go sink the U.S. Navy first, and
Mhm.
then we will do as we wish in the Pacific. Why would the Chinese not do the same thing? Why would they move on Taiwan and allow us then to choose how we will respond? I think they would begin by striking at the number one enemy, which is us.
Yeah. This was a subject of the conversation we had yesterday. Jeff Nyquist, one of our colleagues on the Committee on the Present Danger of China, which, of course, you are a prominent
Mhm.
member, talked about a defense minister about 20 years ago in China by the name of Chi Hao Chen, who, in another recorded presentation to party cadre, talked about the United States as being the principal target. A lot of talk about Taiwan, but they understood that we are the main enemy and we must be taken out so that they can realize their ambitions towards the island of Taiwan, yes, but also more broadly. In fact, he talked about biological warfare being used by the Chinese to depopulate the United States and enable their colonization of it. Are you familiar with this speech, Sam?
Yeah.
And does that fit your own experience with, among other things, sort of the biological warfare piece of weapons of mass destruction terrorism, which you used to be responsible for at
I,
the agency?
I'm familiar with the speech, and look, I think you should assume that the Chinese would strike at us at the outset of a conflict. They will not let us choose how to respond, and they will attack us in any way possible. They have never accepted that biological weapons, chemical weapons are off the table. They explicitly say that the only reason those treaties exist is because we want to preserve our dominance in other spheres. And it's a Western plot basically to keep them from being able to fight us. So yeah, they're
So
going to
even
hit us
even though
in.
they are signatories to these agreements, as I
Right,
understand it, you're saying that
meaningless.
they don't feel that they're constrained by them.
No,
It's a
not at all.
chilling thought.
They're completely meaningless.
Yeah.
And particularly you look at some place like Guam, which is one of our principal bases in the Western Pacific, right? If you attack and you bomb and you destroy uh, jets and crater runways and so forth, okay. If you use biological and chemical weapons on Guam as well, I'm just using this as an example, not okay. Think of the area denial implications of that when you're now trying to put that place back into operation, but you're now dealing with chemical and biological threats.
Yeah.
Whole different ball game.
It is indeed. Sam, we have to take a short break here for just a moment, and I want to come back to sort of the problem of biological warfare, pandemics, and the like with you in a moment. But suffice it to say, we'll talk with Michaela Dodge a little later in the program about the Chinese nuclear threat. But
Mhm.
one thing that I think is a consideration for them that argues for using biological warfare, maybe in a place like Guam, maybe in a place like the United States mainland, is that you don't destroy everything.
Right,
You just kill the people. And if
right.
what you hope to do is to use it as Lebensraum, as the Hitler used to say, or
Mhm.
colonize, that's a consideration, I'm afraid. Sam, we'll be right back with more with the great Sam Faddis right after this.